Hey guys, real quick before we start the video, I wanted to let you know that if you want to be a part of my video, please be sure and send me a boomer video. It only has to be about 5 to 6 seconds long. You got to tell me your name, where you're from, that you're a boomer, and a quick boom at the end. It's a really cool way for my audience to be involved in any of my videos. Without you guys, I would not be where I am today. And I want to show my appreciation by incorporating as many of you as I possibly can. And if you're not already subscribed, you might ought to do so right now. Smash that like button as well. It really helps the channel out. Check out my website and Instagram for any more behind the scenes information on Rockin' H so you don't miss a thing. So now, let's get started. Tongue and groove joinery. It's been around for a long time and there are many ways to go about making that particular joint. However, if you do not have a router table with the appropriate bits, I'll show you how to make it with a singular saw blade for one joint and then a dado stack for a second joint. Stay tuned.
Okay, hi, this is Michael Ashford from Mesquite, Texas. 1, 2, 3, boom!
Now we're going to start off with a typical tongue and groove joint that is used mainly like you would see in hardwood flooring. So you can laminate multiple pieces together to create one big section. So you can make things like tabletops or cutting boards or anything of that nature that you need a wide section. We're going to accomplish that with a singular saw blade and the table saw. So we're first going to cut a couple of pieces to proper dimension. This is arbitrary, you can cut it however you like to try this. Now when it comes to joinery, setup is very, very crucial. So you always want to take your time when you set up your table saw for the first and last cut. Let me show you how we have this one set up. So the setup is the fence here, the blade is here. We've set the fence up to where it's offset of the piece that we're going to cut. We've also raised the blade up to 3/8 of an inch high because our tongue that we want to make is going to be 3/8 of an inch long. Now the blade that we are using is a flat bottom grind blade, but the shoulders are notched at about a 45-degree angle. That will cause a problem when it comes to fitting the tongue into the groove, but we'll take care of that later. Now the last thing you'll need to have set up is a feather board. Not only will this help keep the board from kicking back at you, but we'll also keep it pushed up against the fence so your cut will be nice and consistent all the way down the length of the board. And now with the first cut made, we're just going to take the board, flip it 180 degrees, and make a second pass. Anything left in the middle, we'll just clear out with the blade. Now with every negative, there's always a positive. So we're going to use the negative, which is the groove, to set up the fence for the positive, which is the tongue. We are also going to employ the help of our feather board to keep it up against the fence and to make sure that this thing stays nice and centered. Side note, do not change the blade height. Your tongue will still be 3/8 of an inch long, just like the groove you made previously. Now to cut the shoulders, you just want to lower the blade down to where it just clears the top of the pieces that we are wanting to cut off. The fence is set at the very base of the first curve that we made. Now if you remember what I said before, the blade that we use is not a true flat bottom grind. So there is tiny little shoulders of 45-degree angles at the very base of this kerf that's in the groove. So we have to make the tongue match it. We're just going to take some sandpaper and just knock off those edges. Now when joining your boards together, alternate your grain pattern. This one goes up to the right, this one goes up to the left. This will minimize any bowing of your panel as it expands and contracts. So as you've seen, this joint is pretty easy to do with just one saw blade. You do not need a dado stack or a router bit set to accomplish it. You just need really good setup on your blade and your saw, and you're good to go as long as you take your time. Like I said, with every negative, there is a positive. While using the other piece as a gauge, you can make the adjoining piece fit just like a glove. Now, for the second option, this is going to require the use of a dado stack. Whether it's a 6-inch or an 8-inch, it does not matter. There is a little bit more prep and setup for a dado stack, but the results are pretty clean. Now what I'm going to show you how to make is a dust frame using this 1 3/4 inch wide piece of pine. In the blade setup, I've got the 2 outer blades of my 8-inch dado stack. what we do is set the fence up to where it's just offset of center from the piece that we are going to make the groove in, and the blade is set up 3/8 of an inch high, so we can do the exact same thing that we did with the singular blade on the previous setup. Now for the next part of the setup, I have to make the tongues that will go on two ends of two pieces. So in order to do that, I've taken off one of the outer blades. I'm going to stick two of the chipper blades in between the two outer blades. Now, granted, my tongues are only 3/8 of an inch deep, but I need to employ the help of my sacrificial fence so I can bury some of the blade up inside of it so I can sneak up on the cut and make it just right, and I won't damage my fence in the process. Now, as I stated prior, there is always a negative to every positive. So this negative, which is the groove, we're going to make the positive for it, which is the tongue that will be accepted in it. So you basically have to cut away this section, the top and bottom, to make the tongue on the ends of the block. Now, place the sacrificial fence on, and scoot your fence over. Bury the blade up inside the fence a little bit, about a blade width. Now, like I said, there is a lot more setup, so not only am I setting the blade height to take off the very bottom and the top after I flip it over, but I'm also setting the depth. So this is going to take a couple passes to dial in. After a few passes on the height, I've got that dialed in. Now I just need to set the depth. Now with the depth and the height dialed in, let's batch cut the rest of them. Now the center panel is just a piece of 1/2 inch plywood that I've rabbited on all 4 sides to accept it in the groove because it's just a little too thick for the groove that I made. But it just slides in, which will act as the barrier between each drawer, which is why it's called a dust frame. It catches the dust as the drawers slide in and out. And you just put the cap on, glue it together, and it's good to go. Now, this can also work as picture frames. It's really cool to see this type of joinery on the side of a picture frame, so keep that in mind if you decide that you want to make some frames for your home. So that's it. Tongue and groove joinery done 2 separate ways for 2 separate purposes. So I hope you guys took something away from this particular jointed episode. Doing joints in many different ways can open up your mind to the possibilities, especially if you don't have access to certain blades like a dado stack. So be sure and give these a try and let me know how they worked for you. If you incorporated this joint in other projects, I'd really like to see the project that you made. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Please be safe in your shops. I will talk to you next week. I want to give a special shout out to Justin Prewitt for this Oklahoma brand. I will be incorporating this in future projects. Thank you very much. Be sure and check out his channel, link down in the description. Talk to you guys later. Boom!